us any second. Usha ma'am, if you could unmute yourself and switch on your camera, we'll appreciate. Yes. Good afternoon, ma'am. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. In case you remember, we met.
Yes, we met. Of course. How are you? Yes. I came to your school.
So, ma'am, your voice is not coming clear. Looks like an internet connection. Can you hear us? Could you, if you can hear us, could you?
I can hear you very clearly. Am I audible now? No.
It is okay now. But it's not very clear. Your camera can be a little higher, lower. Camera lower.
Is it okay now?
Yes, ma'am. Lovely.
All right. Okay.
So, Vivek, I can't hear ma'am, so you'll have to interpret.
Yes. So, ma'am, it's nice to see you once again. And of course, I met you when I came to your school.
School.
Yes.
So, Vivek.
Lovely function you had.
I did very well. I tell you very clearly. Am I audible now? No.
Ma'am, your voice is breaking. So you'll have to ask somebody to help you with the connection. I think your connection is a little poor. The voice is breaking. Otherwise, video is okay.
Okay. I think we are trying. I'm trying. We can start.
So I think let us start, ma'am, because let us start. Thank you very much.
We'll start. You will mute yourself. We'll start with the session and then we can interact.
Lovely. So we'll appreciate Usha ma'am. Welcome to the webinar. If you could please mute yourself. Yeah, lovely. Thank you, ma'am. Truly appreciate. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Atul Khosla, and I welcome you all to the Ideas at Work webinar. Along with me is Mr. Vivek Atray, ex-IAS officer and TEDx speaker. So together, Vivek and I will take you through the wonderful journey of artificial intelligence and how do you bring the human element into AI. A quick introduction to me. I actually have very strong and close connections with your school, Usha ma'am. I used to be on the board of Gabriel, and I have visited your school 2 times, once with Anjali and once with Mr. K.C. Anand. And I'm not sure whether I met you, but I can tell you that in our board meetings for Gabriel, we were always talking about the wonderful work being done by the Anand School in Parvanu, and everyone on the board has been very, very proud of your work and all the teachers in the Parvanu School. So very proud to be here today. I wouldn't take much time. I'm going to just lay out the format for today. The format for today is around 35 minutes of talk, which Vivek and I will co-host. I think predominantly Vivek, and I'll just come in every now and then, Vivek. Sure. We'll play a couple of videos, and then we'd love to really answer a lot of your questions. So there's a chat bot and there is a Q&A box. So just don't hesitate to ask any questions, teachers. This is your day, and we'll be honored and delighted to answer your questions. This is our 35th session. We have spoken to 34 different schools, and it's a true honor now to start speaking to schools from Himachal, especially from Parvanu. So once again, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Usha ma'am. And Vivek, over to you.
Thank you so much, Professor Atul Khosla. Atul, it's a pleasure to be once again speaking together with you. And Sholini University, thank you for organizing this webinar, another webinar series. It is a beautiful theme of ideas that matter. And Usha ma'am, welcome to this webinar. It's a lovely Pleasure to see you once again. I remember very distinctly the function that we had in your school where I was a guest, and I remember how sparkling it was, how beautifully laid out and presented, and the students were very energetic, and I remember it was very well organized. So nice to be there. And again, I think Atul has just mentioned that Atul was also on the board of Gabriel at one time, and he has visited your school also. So he is, of course, the Pro Vice Chancellor of Shulini University, and I am a visiting professor at Shulini. I go there, and after my voluntary retirement, I have been going there very regularly. And now I am also advisor, and I teach leadership and emotional intelligence and various other subjects. So very nice to be connected to you all. I noticed that a large number of teachers are also on the program right now live, and it is great to see you all. Maybe even more are there on YouTube. So let me come to the theme. We are all in the middle of a lockdown where we are realizing the importance of technology even more, but we are even more than that realizing the importance of the human element. And what do I mean by all this? Firstly, I mean that humankind has made a lot of progress. If you look at 100 years ago, when the World War One ended, and when the Spanish flu was prevalent in those years, in 1918, 19, whatever, at that time, also people were wearing masks and being at home and confinement and isolation, and it killed millions of people. And I know that despite all the progress that mankind has made in 100 years, we are still not able to combat the viruses, the smallest of the viruses, and how much impact it is having on us. But technology has taken us very far away from the rest of history. And if you look at the fact that today we are connected in a way that we were never connected before, if we were locked down without any internet or phone call or TV or smartphones, it would have been a very isolated lockdown, and perhaps we would have been very peaceful with our books. But we are to be active as well as locked down at the same time. But it is not only about the lockdown that I am speaking, and Atul Khosla will join me in speaking about this subject. We are talking about the fact that in an era of technology, which is artificial intelligence enabled technology, we have to retain our human values, balance, calmness, cheerfulness, our ability to carry out meaningful conversations, our ability to understand and empathize with others, our ability to retain the human qualities that are important for our progress. And since teachers are a part of this webinar and teachers have a lot of influence on molding the lives and characters of students, it is all the more important that they are aware of what can be done to balance technology with the human qualities and elements and experiences that they need to have. So teachers, first just coming to your lives nowadays, you are a part of online classes. I'm sure you are reaching out to students through online classes and sessions and teachings, and you are always connected every day to your students through the webinars and through Zoom or whatever it is. Now, whether life has changed for you, yes, it has definitely changed. Life has also changed for the students, and they are also now having to learn in new ways. You are having to teach in new ways. So new paradigms of education have come into the picture, and these new paradigms of education, first of all, involve a lot of technology, but we will be going back to the classroom one day. It could be in a few weeks, it could be in a few months. When we go back to the classroom, we will again be in touch with our students in the same way that we are used to and that we used to be earlier. Whether we are wearing masks or sitting in distances, or gradually we get over these things, and masks and sanitizers and physical distancing are a thing of the past one day, it is possible that we will still continue the classroom method as well as the webinar technology method. So blended learning, you have heard, blended learning will be a part of your future, where you will have schooling, you will have regular activities in school, but you will also carry out a lot of coaching, teaching, and classes online. So being friendly with online technology is important. Finding your human element at the same time is also important. So when we are on a webinar or a camera or on Zoom or on any other video conferencing facility, teaching students live or recorded, we are still talking to human beings. We are not talking to the computer. We are not talking to a camera. We are actually reaching out to human beings. Now, for example, if you have a video call with your child who is somewhere else and you're somewhere else, you are quite used to having those video calls. Many people have their children abroad. Some people have them in Mumbai, Bangalore, or elsewhere. And they are used to having video conferencing on WhatsApp or whatever with them. Now they have learned to be natural on those platforms. And being natural on those platforms means that you are talking in a manner as if that girl or boy is with you. Similarly, in a classroom setting online, you have to be speaking as if people are with you at the same time. I am speaking to you today, Atul is speaking to you after a series of such sessions. So we are used to talking to you as if you are sitting in front of us. Right now, I'm staring at a screen and I can only see myself and I can see some names and I can see a bare screen. But I have to understand that behind the screen, reaching out to through technology is this session to various kinds of homes and people. So ultimately, it is a human being to human being connection. And we cannot think of it as a technology connection. You are still with a chance of influencing minds and hearts of young children. So we have to make our talks using artificial intelligence inspiring. We have to make our sessions and lectures and classes and subject teachings inspiring and exciting. So you will have to learn to blend your artificial technology with the human element. This is one part. Secondly, if you look at the bigger picture, what is happening in the world is that the younger people are born with technology. They are born and grow up with smartphones. In fact, parents make the mistake of trying to make a 2-year-old quiet by giving him or her a smartphone. By giving him or her a phone, then the 2-year-old stops looking outside, stops looking at the world around, the leaves, the trees, the bees and the insects and the squirrels and whatever, and starts playing with the social media world, or at least the virtual world. So if the child of 2 is given a smartphone and video games and virtual games a lot beyond what is necessary, then the child is growing up in an artificial world, in a virtual world. And we are not really balancing his or her life as he or she grows up. What is balance in life in today's era? That you and I, and even a child, is able to go for a walk, is able to play a sport outdoors, is able to see a ladybird or a bird or an animal or flowers or leaves or whatever, and wonder at nature's beauty and listen to the call of birds. Nowadays, with lockdown, we can hear more birds. The sky is clearer, the breeze is fresh and pure. It is a chance to renew our relationship with nature. So even in the era of technology, when we have smartphones, we still have a chance to blend and balance our lives by spending time with nature, with things which are not to do with technology. Books are one of them. I am a writer, author. My book is called Finding Success Within. And that's the latest book that I have written. I am a great fan of the autobiography of a yogi. I think it's a good time to mention it. It is lying here. The autobiography of a yogi is a book which I have read and reread for the 6th time. And it gives a lot of information and knowledge and inspiration about the bigger picture of life, about how life should be in current times. And therefore, this book is something you can read, and also other books. And children need to be reading also. Books of not only digital kind, but holding the book in the hand and trying to read old books or even newly printed books and trying to spend time without the phone. So blending and balancing your life and their lives, your own children and your students, it is very, very important. And also, when we see that everything is happening with technology, there are ways to distance yourself from technology a little bit. Firstly, let's come up with some ideas. A lift in a building involves technology. Supposing you have to go to the second or third floor and you use a lift, you are using a machine. Whereas if you go by the stairs, you're not using a machine. You may not meet anybody in the lift, of course, which may be good or bad, but at least you're getting some exercise. And using the stairs, if you can, going up and down, is one way to avoid mechanics and automation and technology at that time. Secondly, you can use a lot of like reading. I said books can be used instead of reading on the smartphone. You can use a lot of ways of doing things which are old time. You can still have a little booklet like I have over here. And sometimes I like to scribble notes in a little copy or pen with a copy and pen, which used to be done earlier instead of copying on the smartphone, which also I can do. But it is nice and it's a pleasure to use the pen and paper. We can still write little notes instead of sending only text messages. It is nice to use that longhand and write something on a piece of paper and send it to people, whoever it has to be sent to. In our time, we used to send a lot of little notes in class also. But nowadays, everything is text messages and text and text. We can also carry out a lot of conversations one to one instead of being on the video cam or fan or phone. We can easily carry out with neighbors, with relatives, meeting them often. When lockdown is not there, it is good. And meeting people, making eye contact, sharing experiences. There is a limitation to how much technology can make you connect with other people. There is a limitation to the experience that technology can give you. And therefore, the real human contact, once it is safe and allowed, has to come back. And we have stopped doing that for the last 20, 30 years. We don't carry out real-time conversations sitting across somebody's table. We are more used to being in the virtual world. In fact, I met Gul Panag at a conference, and Gul Panag is a famous actor and sportsperson, and she's a writer, and she was also an MP candidate in Chandigarh a few years ago. But she was saying that she had to detox herself from her virtual life about 5, 6 years ago. In that panel discussion where I was there, she was there, a couple of other people were there at our Chandigarh Literature Festival called Literati in November every year at the Lake Club. So that year she was there, and she said that this virtual life has to be avoided. I have millions of followers on Twitter, and I kept spending time on Twitter. I have made a conscious focus to distance my life from technology and try to get into my trekking mode, sports mode, and spending time with her child now. So that is something which we can also experience ourselves. And before we get into an obsession or a kind of habit, let us do it at the right time. So I'll share some more ideas after a break in which Atul Khosla will show you a beautiful experiment that Aman, a student of Shulini, has carried out, and how she is becoming one of the top young researchers in the country, thanks to Shulini's focus on research and her own brilliance. Thank you, Atul. Over to you.
Thank you, Vivek. I think every time I listen to you, I get goosepimples, and it's always so insightful and exciting.
Thank you.
I think as Vivek was talking about different things about what happens in the new wave of technology, the two things I'd like to bring in. The first, I'd like to bring in a concept of thanks. Thanks to people around us and how that can really sort of enlighten us and take us to a new dimension. So in the spirit of that, I'd also like to thank all the teachers, all of you, because all of you have actually been also, in my opinion, true Corona warriors. You've gone out, adopted technology, you've done something that you never did before, so that everyone in India, everyone in your school, everyone in your community continues to learn, continues to have the momentum of the country up. So that's the first thing I'd like to say. I think the second, Vivek, I'd like to bring in a concept of creativity. So however much technology comes in, however much AI comes in, we still would need a lot of creativity in our lives. The world is going to be driven by ideas and innovation. And the more ideas and innovation come in, the more creativity comes in, the more our chances of making ordinary people look extraordinary and getting extraordinary work out of them. And a lot of that work is going to be for the betterment of humankind. So I'm going to show you a video of a piece of work that Aman has done. Aman, as an introduction, is a PhD student at Shulini. She did her undergrad and masters also from here. Was not a very bright student, was a little bit of a problem child, I would say. Comes from a small town slash village in Punjab, comes from a relatively lesser privileged family, and had trouble till she got into her PhD. She was lucky. She ended up working on a very, very creative project on water. So, how do you make undrinkable water potable? How can you make it drinkable? So, they've discovered, the team that she's working in, which she was leading, has discovered a biomolecule, an extract from a food product, which we'll see in a second, which, when added to water, kills bacterial activity inside the water by 99.9%. This is path breaking. It could change the way people drink water. Aman has been awarded the Young Water Fellow. This is an award by the United Nations. She spent 4 months in Geneva. More than 100,000 researchers were actually fighting for this award, which she won. Post that, she's won an award of 25 lakhs from Tata Trust and Lockheed Corporation. And in my opinion, all of this happened because of the simple word called creativity and innovation, and also stretching herself. Possibly also collaboration, which also becomes very, very important. And I think in this world of AI, where people tend to be loners, Vivek, I think collaboration also becomes very, very important as we build sort of the human values as you're talking about. But let me play this video and then we'll talk about Aman after that. What an amazing story, Vivek. Every time I, listen to Aman, I get goose pimples. So for everyone, I introduced three concepts over here. One was a thank you, second was creativity, and third was collaboration. But over to the guru for today, Vivek.
Yeah, thank you so much, Atul. In fact, collaboration is something which is also a human kind of experience, because when team building takes place, when people team up, then that is when magnificent results are possible. Computers and AI are still not able to carry out or experience emotions. And you know that they cannot love or feel or care. They can only process information. Even robots who can speak or move around are not really capable of decision making also. So there is nothing to worry that artificial intelligence will sweep the world. By and by, we will have to keep on changing our own ways of living. There's no doubt about it. People who are scared of the new normal after the corona lockdown need not be scared, because these changes are actually gradual anyway. 20 years back and now, or 10 years back and now, life is very different. And this life maybe is accelerated the change a little bit, but these things keep happening and we need not worry. Worry is something which stifles our progress, and our own depression or our own inhibitions or worries or fears take us back. One of the ways in which we can retain our balance and cheerfulness is creativity. And Atul mentioned creativity, which is what Aman has done. Fabulous experiment to use moringa seeds to purify water. And if you look at it, something as creative as this can come out from any student or any teacher in a project or something. So, encouraging creativity amongst the children and among your own children and among yourself is something which will really go a long way in enhancing your lives, making them better. So, in fact, if you look at it, if you encourage your own creativity, that means that teachers find time for themselves in the midst of the day, even 30 minutes somehow, to read, to meditate, to play music, to paint 1 hour maybe, to do something which is really joyous and enjoyable for you, and maybe write poetry or literature or whatever you want to. So something that gives you joy on your own is also important. That creative element remains a part of your life, and you are able to combat the technology advance. And let me not make it sound as if technology is bad or against human creativity. Technology is actually enabling things to happen which could not happen before. So we may get inspired by an artist who lives in Belgium, and we live in Solon. And this Belgium artist is making beautiful paintings of a kind that we are also trying to learn. So we are using technology to enhance our own creativity in these ways. So while technology is great for mankind, it needs to be controlled, and mankind needs to use it as a facilitator, as an enabler, as a helper, not allow it to become the boss and not allow it to control our lives. So we are now in a position to blend this life and encourage human values at the same time. So children who are growing up at this level, at this era, 2020 and beyond, really have a challenge to retain their humaneness while they are using technology more and more. So people in a metro train may not even be looking at each other, and they go, and that's fine, I guess. But supposing you are in a workplace and you don't even ask each other, how are you today? What is happening? And you are only in your computer or screen time or phone time or technology time, then life is about to it becomes very boring and dull and unidimensional. Meeting people of different kinds is something that I enjoyed in my own career. And just to tell you, and perhaps I told you this when I came to Parvanu in your school, I was SDM of Kalka from 93 to 96. And that was my second posting of my career. I resigned from IAS in 2017. But way back in 93 to 96, I was in the HCS and SDM Kalka. I would love meeting people. And meeting people gave me that opportunity to grow as an individual, and meeting people of different kinds, various kinds. As teachers, you also have parents of children or other people you meet who are from different backgrounds. And it is often very quaint and very interesting to see different kinds of human behavior. I write a lot. I'm a humorist also in some of my columns. And I write on human experiences, noticing people, noticing how they are, how they conduct themselves, noticing whether they are feeling good or bad today, caring for them. These are human experiences and human values, and they will encourage your life. They will enable you to lead lives which are more balanced, and your children will also adopt that example. So let me take an example of a lady who was too much wedded to technology, and she was at an airport and she was boarding a flight, but her flight got delayed. And she was very much in her smartphone and trying to sort out the delay and trying to phone her Bombay people. She was going from Delhi to Mumbai. And in the Delhi airport, she bought a packet of, let's say, some Pringles. And she buys these Pringles and she puts them on the table and she keeps playing with her smartphone and she's feeling a little low and bad because this flight is delayed. When there is a gentleman sitting over there who picks up the box of Pringles and takes out a couple of chips and eats them. And this lady notices and very surprised that how can a stranger eat my chips? And she picks up another couple of them just to prove that it is her box and eats them. So he takes a few of them, she takes a few of them, and he takes some more. This goes on for a while. And she is quite fuming now within that what is this man doing? He is eating my chips and is not even asking or saying sorry or whatever. He's going on munching them. And this lady also kept on munching the chips, also busy with her technology, her phone. And when the last bit was left, the man took out that last piece and gave half to her and half he had himself. And she was quite annoyed with this fellow for his behavior. Anyway, the flight was announced and she started walking off. She took her big handbag, whatever she was carrying, out and she wanted to get her boarding pass or whatever. And she noticed that the packet of Pringles, the box of Pringles, was in her bag. She had been eating his chips, his Pringles, not realizing that this is what is the truth and thinking that he is a very, kind of a crazy kind of man who is ill-mannered and trying to eat mine. So we are often so much absent-minded because of technology that we are not living in the present. So the thing I'd like to emphasize before I close and hand it over to Atul for more ideas is mindfulness despite technology. So human beings who are wedded to technology, younger people especially, you have heard of selfie accidents. So much absorbed in the selfie that you forgot to look where you are and you fell off the cliff. And it is very, very important to be absorbed in the present moment. Often I speak on mind wandering, how mind keeps wandering to the future, to the past, and never in the present. And it is very, very important that we take out time from our technology world, from our other activities, and we focus on the present moment. We breathe deeply at that time. We take a deep breath, we pause, we reflect. Our mind, even in a 2-minute break, will be refreshed. And we will feel as if we have taken a longer break than that. And those who meditate, I can tell you that your lives are going to be balanced forever. Because when you meditate morning and evening, those 20 minutes or 30 minutes or 40 minutes, whatever you give, are so beautiful that they will enable you to lead the rest of the day with a great deal of calmness and a great deal of composure and balance. So this will enable you to combat all the effects of the world and its frenzied pace in a better way. So take out time for walks, meditation, yoga, and meditation especially will help you to do a lot. In fact, I believe Shulini University is going to have a session on meditation next week sometime online. And some of you can join in that session also. And that will help you to, if you don't meditate as of now, how to meditate. I have found in my own life that 10 years ago or 12 years ago when I started meditating, it has made me a more cheerful, calm person. And as a motivational speaker now, I go all across India when the government allows me to travel. I go and speak here and there, and I speak to various audiences. I love it, speaking, interacting with people. So I have 2 million views on YouTube. And those of you who haven't seen me or heard me before, you can go to YouTube and watch my talks. And you will also see several of the sessions that are in this series of webinars by Shulini University, these ideas that matter. In fact, one of them is going to be this one, which you are now listening to. So have a look at them later also, and you will see how life can improve. So yes, please keep sending your questions now, and Atul is going to come back with a few words, and he's also going to show you a film. So over to you, Atul, and then we can take Q&A.
Thank you, Vivek. Thank you. Truly, thanks a lot. I'd like to bring in 3 thoughts now, Vivek. I think the first is a little revolutionary. So we all talk about how AI technology will change our lives. And I actually think humans have been answering or asking this question now for the last 10,000 years. Imagine when human beings first discovered fire. I'm sure they would have asked, now life is going to change with fire. What will happen to human values when they discover the wheel, or when they discovered how to read and write, or when they discovered bronze, or they discovered fuel, or the industrial revolution came in, when they started printing books, etc., etc., etc. So I think the important thing, my belief is that however much technology comes in, the values will remain the same. The need for social contact remains the same. In fact, I was speaking to a very dear friend of mine, uh, Anshu Gupta of Gunj. Gunj is a very big NGO. So he was saying, Vivek, that I hate the word social distancing. It should be physical distancing, because in this world today, we need social contact. We need to be in touch with each other. We don't want social distancing. We actually want to be socially together with each other. So I think it's a wave of change that's happening, and we're all insecure about the change. But over time, we'll understand and we'll figure out a way, and we'll get closer together. Of course, it's going to be a different world, but I think the same values, the same meditation, the same families, all the same love, all the things that are important to us will continue to be important. So that's, I think, the thought I'd like to leave everyone. So don't be too worried. Enjoy life, be happy, smile, look into the mirror every day and smile. I don't know how many of you know, but when you smile, even if it's artificial and you smile artificially, you release oxytocin, which makes your mood happy, and it's also good for the skin. So uh, sometimes I glow because of that. I try to smile. And jokes apart. I think the second thing I'd like to add over here is we all are very, very lucky. We all are very lucky because we work with a population that will make the change in the future. So we're all working with young Indians. We're working with young people in our community to make them world beaters. And these are the people who will make the future. And there's a question which I think we'll answer later. How do we motivate our students? But at the end of the day, what I believe is that we are in the business of inspiration, Vivek. All teachers are in the business of inspiration. The day there is a spark that comes, the fire in the belly, आग जिस दिन लग गई, उस दिन आपके बच्चों को कोई रोक नहीं सकता. वो बोर्ड भी टॉप कर जाएंगे और वो आईआईटी भी निकल जाएंगे. तो मैं एक छोटा सा अपना स्टोरी बताना चाहता हूँ, विवेक. I'll tell you my story. I was not a very good student in my 10th and 12th, but I would still come probably first in my class in St. Luke's in Solon. I'm a Solon boy. But coming in St. Luke's is no big shit. And in my 10th, for some reason, I came fourth after my unit exams. And I did not go to receive the annual award which you would get for coming first. 10 days later was the National Talent Search exam. And I knew nothing about it. I hadn't prepared for it. Something happened to me. I said, I have to prove to the world that I can also do it. So those 10 days, I just understood the concepts. I studied very hard, and I came first in Himachal. I got the National Talent Search Scholarship. And that was the starting point of my life. I then went to IIT Kanpur. I couldn't speak a word of English when I started working. I started speaking to a camera every day for the next 7 years. I would stammer. I learned how to speak. And I think if I could do it, and I come from a small town, like I said, everyone can do it. You just need people like Vivek to put their hand on your head and give you the guidance to make it happen. So you guys are doing that with your students. We're at Shulani attempting to do that every day. And that's why I became a teacher from the corporate world. I spent 20 years in the corporate sector, in 7 different countries, 35 different cities. And the only thing that excites me, Vivek, is, and I'm sure that's true for you, is changing young minds. So I'll show a small video over here which talks about the philosophy of Shulani, and it's going to be linked a little bit with what all I said, and we'll then get into Q&A, if you allow me.
Sure, please go ahead. Keep on asking questions. We have 2 questions till now.
Throughout history, the young have always been the ones to shape the future. And they continue to do so today. You are the country's biggest asset, a best bet to conquer the future. So what are you waiting for? Your time to dream is now. Dream of the research that can change the world. Dream of a high-flying corporate career. Dream of higher studies in the world's best universities. Dream of developing cutting-edge technology of the future. Dream of your own global startup. Shooting University, we empower you and enable you to chase your dreams and change the world. Shooting University, think learning, think success.
So, Vivek, before I hand it over to you, I would like to bring one more concept in the discussion. And I think it's relevant because the example I'm going to show is something that you all will resonate with from the Anand School. And the concept is courage and fearlessness. So I did mention that I was on the board of Gabriel. At Shulani, we have a very deep relationship with the Anand Group. Every year, the Anand Group sends around 25 engineers to do their engineering degree with Shulani. So how did this start? I knew of Mr. DC Anand. I had met him once. I was flying from Chandigarh to Delhi, Vivek, and I saw someone who looked like Mr. Anand. I thought it was Mr. DC Anand. That's the chairman. I think now it's his daughter Anjali who's the chairperson, but it was DC in those days. And DC is a very charismatic guy. He also keeps a bit of distance from people. I think all of you teachers might know of that. So I walked up to him and I introduced myself and said, hey, do you remember we met during the Bishop Cotton Annual Day? So he's an alumnus of Bishop Cotton. And he started talking to me and we spoke for an hour. And post that hour, he comes to me and says, I think I want you to be on my board at Gabriel. Would you want to join the board? He didn't know me, I didn't know him, but we just had a lovely talk. But I had the courage and the fearlessness of going up to DC and introducing myself and talking to him. So I think that's what we also need to teach ourselves and our students. So with that story, I'll hand it over to you, Vivek.
Wonderful story, Atul, and great experience. What a wonderful way to be recognized at the airport for what you do and what you stand for. Lovely ideas. I think teachers, we already have 4 questions, but just to sum up before that, we would basically do well to recognize that times keep changing. Atul said that technology has been evolving over the centuries, and it's absolutely right. The pace of change is more now. But we are still human beings, and the truth is still the truth. Values are still values, and what needs to be done still needs to be done. So good human beings will still flourish. Hardworking human beings will still succeed. And the only thing is to be savvy enough and yet to be grounded enough to understand how to balance your life and how to find those success elements within yourself and how to find that inner peace within yourself. Then life will become happy and successful for you. So, should we take questions? I have a question from Vandana ma'am, who is saying, can you help us to know various ways how we can motivate our students in this time? Yeah, in this time, everybody needs motivation. Firstly, the parents need to talk of positive things in front of their children. If parents are speaking only about how many deaths have happened, how much scare it is, how much of a worry it is, then children are also going to pick that up. And if you look at teachers and how they can motivate their students, they can tell them online or through these webinars that this will not last forever. And whatever time is there at home where you are with your parents or where you're holding online classes, it is also something to relish and experience in a positive minded way so that you can actually make the most of it. So learn those tricks or those skills which you could not learn till today, some music, some other things, and then come back when lockdown is over with a full, fresh vigor and energy. So that's the only way. And tell them motivational stories. That also helps. Lots of inspiring figures from history or present times. Talk about them and how they overcame their worries and stresses and fears. So that is something.
So I'll just add my 2 cents, Vivek. Absolutely, so well said. We need inspiration and motivation in these times. And why these times? We need inspiration and motivation all the time. You never know when the spark comes up. One never knows what really inspires people. So I strongly believe that you need to keep on introducing role models to your students. Keep talking about people who've changed the world with inspiring stories. So 2 tricks which I do, and you could probably start doing that. First, just don't say negative things to your students. Always positive, and they will of course ask a lot of negative questions. So there's always a glass half empty, half full. So give the half full story to them. I think the second is start sharing motivational stories to them. So whenever I see a video where I think it's very interesting, it gives me goose pimples, I just send it to my students. Some see it, some don't, but that's okay. If you keep on consistently sending good stuff, I think over a period of time, you'll start hitting people and you'll start hitting them in a positive way. I think the third thing is don't push them too hard on their traditional academics right now. I think, I know it's important for you teachers, but do expose them to stuff beyond the obvious. As a small example, there are lots of lovely webinars which are happening. At Shulani, we do a webinar every day at 11:30. I'll request Shikha to Usha ma'am send you the link. Whoever wants to join, do that. Vivek does some lovely webinars. He had exciting authors. He had people like Greg Chappell on his show. I think the more the students can learn from outside the textbook, they'll be more motivated at these times. Especially the students who are not very good at studies. You know, I'm sure that parents keep on beating on them. There are a lot of pressure, what's going to happen to their future, especially 12th grade students. So just be very, very careful about how you handle the students, I'll say. Vivek, over to you.
So we have Ankita ma'am who's asking how to motivate kids for study. I think she is part of our answer has already been given by me. And we basically for study is for life ahead is very important to motivate them. Absolutely. So the methods that Atul and I have mentioned are important. And Ankita ma'am also says that she was studying in Government College Kalka and got a prize from me. Well, super. Which year was that? Please type out the year on the chat box. And that's very nice. You remember me and it's very nice of you. And that means that I motivated you at that time and now you are a fully motivated person. That's great. Somebody is saying I'm an ex-student of this school. That could be Kamal or Shikha. Atul? In the chat.
It could be Shikha. She spent time in Kalka, so probably Shikha, I guess. Shikha can be.
So Ankita,
yeah, I think it's Shikha.
Tell me which year you got that prize. That is what I will just like to know. I have another question from Deepthi ma'am, who is saying that she liked the example of Pringles. And so what message can you suggest for us to give to our students on how to use technology? Okay, using technology is something which they are already very good at, but basically you need to tell them to utilize it to the best possible extent without going overboard. So they need to be using technology without sleeping late with technology by their bedside and sleep on time. They need to balance their sleeping hours and sports hours, that is physical fitness. They need to use technology in a way that they are okay. Entertainment is one part, social media is one part, or it is linked. Studies is another part. So use it judiciously, and you can tell them to also manage their time. And you also, teachers, can also manage your time in a way that you are productive and you are relaxed at the same time. That is
So I'd
important.
like to add over here, Vivek, that maintaining a routine is very important. So I continue to get up at 7 in the morning. I think so do you. You do your meditation. I'll take my shower the way I would early morning. I'll shave. I'll wear my best clothes. I'll have breakfast on the table, etc. So I think that's important that we encourage our students to do that. At least in college, it's very difficult. I see some of my students. Nowadays, it's very interesting because when you're doing a webinar, Vivek, they don't put themselves on screen. They just stop the video. I guess they're not shaved, or they're not like, or the girls have not combed their hair, which whatever be the case. So I think it's important to have a routine the way we would always have. I think it's important we do that, whether it's technology or no technology.
Yeah, absolutely. And Deepti ma'am is also asking that how can we use technology and rely more on classroom teaching? We had told them, but now everything is being done technologically. So we justify this because everybody's in lockdown. They also know it. And online classes have replaced classroom teaching. But it is important that we tell them that technology can be used only for positive means and intents. If you are becoming obsessed with technology, as I said, if you are unable to detox yourself, my own daughter yesterday, the older one, she was like, I said, just check your phone and find this out. She said, Papa, today I'm on a less screen time day, so I don't want to see my phone for a while. So, I mean, if she's determined to do that, that's great. So tell them that be determined to have these less screen time days and or even screen time free days, which might help you and them.
That's a very good one.
Thank you, Atul. How do parents, as and we as teachers, make sure that children are safe while using the online platform? So Pallavi ma'am is asking this. And I agree with you that children using online platforms have to be very careful. Their parents have to be careful. And if they are very young children, just monitor them gradually. Tell them before you give them a technology, internet device that they should, just to follow these particular websites or internet, not spend too much time on this. Children who are younger, they listen more. As they grow older, it becomes difficult to instruct them, but they will be listening to you if you are serious. And as teachers, definitely they listen to you more actually. If you understand the children and you know them well, they listen more to the teachers than to the parents. And therefore, teachers should make sure that they tell the children, remind them that their health, their eyes, their stress levels will improve if they are using technology only judiciously. Atul?
Absolutely. I was just thinking of one question and I was being tempted to ask you, Vivek, how tech savvy are you?
How tech savvy am I? Well, I'm a good user. I am an engineer, but I always tell my class, my friends, and everybody who listens that I don't need to know how many chips are inside the computer and which configuration is there. I am an engineer, but I don't need to get inside it. I need to basically be a good user. And if I get stuck with something, I learn it and then I become savvy enough. So I think I'm adequately savvy.
So you're like a millennial, I guess.
I guess so. How about you? You are pretty savvy.
I'm okay, I would say. I can get around, but I think the kids nowadays are very, very savvy. Someone just pinged me and they said, "Sir, are you on TikTok?" And I said, "No, I'm not on TikTok. So I guess I need to be on TikTok now." So I'll just experiment with that sometime today. But I'm very tempted to do a rapid fire on you.
But there was one more question, and this is
Yeah,
from
let's do that.
Pratichi. I think her name is Pratichi, ma'am. So she's a firm believer that artificial intelligence can never replace the human touch. But during this time of lockdown, we are using it a lot. So that's what I said, that when technology is required, as it is required in the lockdown, we have to use it. Then these classrooms are replacing actual classrooms, then we have to use it. But at the same time, because the screen time is increasing, then you and the children have, the students have to realize that then television watching should be reduced because already you are on screen time, or smartphone time should be reduced because already you are on screen time. So it is important that you balance your timings accordingly, and that discipline is required, and then only it can work. And Ankita Verma says that it was the year 97 when Government College Kalka, I was the SDM. I think it could be 96 because I left in June 96, so it could be 95 or 96. Yeah. So thank you for that. Yes, Atul, over to you.
No, I'm so glad Pratichi ma'am talks about the word human touch. And I'm going to talk about the word touch because just to let everyone know, I spent 4 years in Switzerland. And one thing that really amazed me was that every fourth shop that was there in the biggest shopping centers was a massage shop, a masseur. And I was very intrigued, and I started speaking to some of my Swiss friends saying, "Why are there so many masseurs in Switzerland?" And the answer is actually very interesting because they don't get the human touch. So if you are 70-year-old or 65, you probably haven't touched a fellow human being for months. So they would actually go to a masseur to get that human touch just at a physical level, Vivek. It's so very, very important. So I think one of the things which we've been talking, me and Vivek have been talking to many, many schools, is to start giving a little more importance to things like moral science or values in your curriculum, which probably somewhere along the way we lost. And I think that's going to be very, very important in this new world of artificial intelligence. So there's one more question, Vivek, and then I think we're running short of time.
Yes.
Akshi ma'am has a question for you.
Sakshi ma'am says, as balance in life is lacking in young children, how do we help them to build it, especially in toddlers? Yeah, toddlers, I think, need to be kept physically active. If you really make them play and run and, outdoors, especially whenever, whichever space they have, not only during this time, but during their growing years, physical exercise will make them less, balanced, will make them more balanced and less towards smartphones and screen time. And reading books is another time. When they are listening to you, at that stage, make them follow a timetable. Very important to follow a timetable at home also. Do your homework first, then do playing outside, then this. So that helps. And Atul, over to you then.
Thank you, Vivek. I was being very tempted to do a rapid fire on you if you allow me. I think you got 2 minutes to close. In the next 2 minutes,
All right.
we can do it on technology.
Yeah.
Okay, so Android or iPhone?
Android.
Your favorite phone brand?
Mine is Samsung. That's why Android.
Okay, so you're a Samsung, so you're a Korean guy. Your favorite application on your phone?
My application is WhatsApp.
Sorry?
WhatsApp.
WhatsApp. That's not technologically savvy. Ever done a TikTok?
Never done a TikTok. I have
Want
done
to do it?
lots of videos, but never done a TikTok.
So you know that you have to take this challenge, and I'll also take it. Let's do a TikTok. We'll share it tomorrow with the teachers.
All right. Instagram.
Pick up some interesting song, Vivek.
All right. We'll think about it.
Think about it. Okay. Last question. Your favorite university campus?
Yeah. So Shulini University is really my favorite. From my heart, I must say that I miss visits to Shulini. I intend to go there as soon as the lockdown is over. and savor. It's a beautiful campus and great vibrations of teaching, of excellence, of research.
Thank you, Vivek. I think it's been a wonderful, wonderful session. We've enjoyed it. To request Usha ma'am to come in a second.
I'm
Us.
hello.
I hope the technology works this time. Usha ma'am, over to you.
Yeah, I think I'm audible now.
You are, absolutely.
And I'd just like to add, just my teachers are there. I think this book I have been recommending to most of them. Half of them must have read the book automatically.
Okay, I'll type it out for them.
Ma'am, if you switch off your video, we can then hear you. I think with the video, your signal is not very good. So if you can switch off the video and just put your audio on. If you can put the audio on, ma'am, then we can hear you.
Yeah, now it's fine.
Is it okay?
Yeah, now
is it okay?
Now we can hear you now. Yes.
Okay. So this book, because I personally know I love to read, so I tell them that we have to make it a point. And in school also we have a reading time. Means once in a week. No, there is that Shikha gave that idea that we have a class of when everyone reads, including anyone, any visitor, anyone who comes to school. So that is half an hour's time we give to that.
Right.
So,
Fantastic.
to keep that, not to encourage. And I think very apt today's session was for all of us. And now, especially after this lockdown, we already have started valuing this human touch. And we know today we had a session with some classes and the children wanted the teacher to be there. And they're all looking forward to coming to that. So overall, means whatever we say, wherever is this technology taking us, but we still remain the masters and we are going to be the masters. So that
Sholini University's website. Sorry, ma'am, you were saying, yeah.
Yeah, and Mr. Khosla, we attended morning session also, Mr. This thing, Ratnam's. Most of my teachers attended that also.
Lovely,
yes.
Lovely.
Because I think we have a long association, and Mr. Patel also had sent a link to me.
Oh, lovely.
For some other session. Anji. So I think we are blessed because we have been associated with all these teachers, no, and they are real gurus.
I know, ma'am.
I know. So
that you gave us the opportunity, Vivek and I, to speak.
And that's why I said we get. There is some divine connection, no? Because we get good people, and the school's lucky, and we are lucky in Parvanu to have all good people. And I don't know how it is providence that I still believe that we get and we are exposed to all the good things. So we look forward to some good sessions in future too. Thank you, Mr. Vivek.
Once things open, we'll be delighted to visit and probably do a seminar with your students and your teachers.
Sure.
And invite you over. I think till
Mr. Casey,
also possibly Shikha can coordinate that. We can do a session with some of your senior students on the topic of mutual interest, and anything that Sholini can do, we'll be delighted. Love to the Anand School. Always so close to our hearts.
I know Mr. Casey had long time he had planned that you take the children, so somehow it didn't materialize. Let's hope we get to see.
Absolutely, Usha. So
sure.
Thank you
so much.
Great day, ma'am, and everyone on the webinar. Teachers, Vivek, Shikha, Kamal, have a great day. Be safe, and once again, big thank you, Vivek. Always inspirational, I would say, inspirational to the core. Truly appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Teachers, we'll meet again.
Sure. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.